forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
So she was very unusual in that way. The estimates of how much damage she did varied depending on who you talked to. A high-level source I talked to said that a girl matching her description was a suspect in 3 to 5 shootings. One of those was a murder. I talked to other sources who are closer to the streets, and those people say that she was thought to have committed at least 15 shootings. Either way you cut it, it was not a one-time thing with her, according to these sources. The police, last time they had contact with her, they saw Gakirah in an alley near 63rd and King Drive, which is kind of the borderline between her gang and another rival gang. And they thought that it was really unusual for her to be there. She was really putting herself at risk. She could have gotten shot there. So one of the officials got out of the car and talked to her and offered her help, and she politely refused and she walked away. 2 months later, she was dead.
A little bit about what happened that day of. Well, I know that day it was another young man's birthday who recently had been also gunned down over a year ago. Mm-hmm. So what some of these kids do on these, some of their friends' birthday, they celebrate. They want to live on, they want to live through, or, and just so happened on this particular day of this young man's birthday, it was, a barbecue was being thrown, people were hanging out on the block, in honor for, the young man's name was Trail, so, they were kind of out having like trail day, that's it's a lot of days they have out here for these kids because they lost a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So, hey, it might be Joe Day, Mo Day, right. Flo Day, it's a day. We're losing so many of our children. So many, so fast for no reason. Yeah. And, she was being her, hanging out with her friends, Oh, so she wasn't by herself? No, she wasn't by herself. She was with a lot of her good friends out there at the time that this happened, that Friday afternoon at about 3 p.m. Okay. Like I said, they were hanging out for this young man's birthday, so somebody was getting some barbecue, getting the grill started to barbecue. They probably was hanging out, listening to some music, I heard it was over 20 people on the scene, and when I got there it was still over 20 plus people on the scene who had been informing me of exactly what happened. But about 3:30 in the afternoon, she had just left from home at about 1:30, so it was really less than 2 hours later. I had just got a phone call of one of her friends, saying come right away, she's been hurt. So is this somewhere that she would hang out on a regular basis? Yeah, actually that's the neighborhood where I grew up in. I was born and raised on those same streets. Yeah. My grandmother lives over there. She's owned her house over there for almost 50 years. I was born and raised in that house. And my kids came up in that house and in that neighborhood. We moved away, but hey, no place like home. Home exactly. is where your heart is. Where you gonna go? Back to your neighborhood. I don't care if you live in Beverly Hills. You going back to Crenshaw Boulevard where you was born and raised. So, that was somewhere she, frequently went. It wasn't like what's she doing over here, or nothing like that. It was where is she at? She's not around here. She hasn't came outside. So, like I said, a lot of people over there they raised and changed her diapers. Raised and changed my diapers as well. So these the same streets that I've been walking all my life, and It wasn't nothing strange or, for her to not be over there. Even the people that was out there with her, those were people that lived over there and knew me, knew her, knew my family.
Crime wave. Dozens of people have been shot in the last week. CBS News national correspondent Dean Reynolds reports.
Shooting violence has gotten so bad in Chicago that gunfights are breaking out now at existing crime scenes. And even with police in close proximity.
You got shots fired over here.
Civilians were ducking for cover as this shootout occurred early Friday on the city's south side.
What we have to do.
Even the police commissioner, Jody Weiss, was pulled away from an interview at the sound of gunfire nearby. It has shaken a community already shell-shocked by gang warfare. There were 41 arrests and 11 guns recovered over the weekend in the city during a big drug bust.
We're in a state of emergency over here with our children. We need the National Guard.
In the last week, at least 50 people were shot and 6 killed in Chicago. Police said mild weather may have been a contributing factor in encouraging bad elements out into the streets. If so, things could get a lot worse as spring turns to summer in the city. Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Chicago.
Yo, we back. Shit got Popalot. Mob gang. We on our way to Illinois with it. The Shy. Y'all meet us on the south side. We headed to 73rd. Now, when I started Mob Ties, I had an idea of certain people that I wanted to cover, and I felt like definitely needed to be represented online. And in the beginning stages of covering those people, I would stumble on some of the craziest stories that I was surprised that the entire world had not known about. And one of those stories are going to be the person that we're talking about today. And we actually covered this story, and I'm not sure how many people are here from the beginning stages because we picked up steam. But if you are, get in the comment box if you remember. But the person that I'm talking about today is going to be none other than Gakirah K.I. Barnes. Some people would go on to name her Taekwon Assassin or Tukaville Kara. But in those early on stages, when Chicago will begin to get covered nationally, and I would say this is throughout the 2010s, like from 2010 to 2020. Now, if we referencing it to a music era, and since we're talking about the city of Chicago, I have to link it closely to the Glory Boys era or the Chief Keef rise. Now, if anybody remember those times in hip hop, I want to say that was probably the first time people started smoking packs. People started dissing dead people's homeboys. Really, beef in Chicago escalated to an all-time level with the use of drill music and with the use of music videos, as well as the use of social media. It was essentially a time where we would see kids, like literally kids. Prime example, Joseph Jojo Coleman. Now, if anybody remembers the story of Little Jojo, he was what you would consider to be an upcoming rapper, but even back then, he struck me as an aspiring gangster more than a rapper. And just like Gakirah Barnes, he would end up being gunned down amidst a gang rivalry in a gang-infested city. Now, what makes Gakirah Barnes different is not only the fact that she's a female, but her age and, according to police, her willingness to commit violent acts. And it's very rarely that we would cover anybody on Mob Ties if they don't got no verified kills, didn't have any hits under their belt, didn't do any time. But this story just struck me different due to the wide-scale rumors and allegations that will pop up after her death. If you followed the carnage in Chicago or even the music game at that time, some of those deaths that would take place on the inner city streets of Chicago would literally play out nationally. Now, one of the things that really gave Gakirah a name for herself, besides her being a willing and known shooter, was the fact that she was rumored to had killed a child of her same age by the name of O.D. Perry. Now, if anybody knows the name O.D. Perry, the first thing you probably think about is the street in Chicago named O Block that was once made famous by Chief Keef, but the legacy was carried over by guys like King Von and even Little Dirt. Now, that specific kill would put Gakirah on the map in a sense, but she would be accused of many, many more, including the murder of Chief Keef associate, GBE Blood Money. Now, it sounds even crazy, me just saying it, but it's essentially the times that we living in. She would go online and essentially claim those murders. And with doing that and the notorious reputation that she had garnered, it would essentially put a target on her back. We talked about a few wild things surrounding this case and even her legacy. But one of, if not the wildest thing to me, was how she was somewhat sensationalized after death. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say CNN would go on to sit down with King Von amidst his rise to fame, and he would go on to talk about some sort of romantic rivalry that was going on between him and Gakirah Barnes, saying things like he would talk to her on the phone, saying that she was going to be his girlfriend and different things along those lines. But the kicker would come not only after her death, but it would be some months after King Von's death in the city of Atlanta, where some documentation would be released online, essentially fingering King Von in the murder of Gakirah K.I. Barnes. And that, to me, would essentially take this from a crazy case to some made-for-TV movie kind of shit. And when looking back at that time, I really would consider people like Gakirah Barnes and even King Von as seeds to the jungle that Chicago is today, whereas last year they had amassed more murders than they had the last 25 years, going back to the late 1990s. So just imagine, y'all thought it was bad when it was coined the name Chirac. But the thing about Chicago is it's always been a dangerous city. Now, y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all hit the red subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real, trill, spill shit is dropping. And y'all flood the comment box. Let me know what cities we need to go to, what gangsters we miss. And my bad to the subscribers that been asking for this story. I finally got to it. It's some people that has to be covered on Mob Ties, and Gakirah Barnes is going to be one of them. And y'all know the rules. Y'all get at me however y'all see fit. It's your boy Popalot. Mob gang.